this particular subject I'll call at issue, meaning that it's a very sensitive issue, contentious issue, debatable, and something has to be done. Who will do it? We'll come to that. Now, I'll touch upon the most important core issues. Like we have talked about very many factors, very many points which are actually pertinent. But I think from my personal perspective, I'll talk about certain issues which I feel, and it has been corroborated by various research and studies all over the world, that there are certain core issues which are being overlooked. Like, suicide, like when we close it upon children or students, find they have problems, die, so on and so forth. Or the academic system is faulty, warped thinking, very many other factors. Now, if I talk in terms of like the rate of suicide among the students, it would be comparable to, even adults in the age range around say 40, 50 and 60. Now we come to the point of affluenza. I think many of you know that what affluenza means. It's a conjunction or amalgam of the words affluence and influenza, meaning that affluence, how it affects the humanity, individuals, is something like a viral disease which can actually destroy humanity, destroy individuals, destroy groups, and can actually lead up to severe depression, melancholy, and the rest. And that's why, these days we are facing a barrage of depressive cases all over, especially in the psychiatric clinics and the psychologists. Now, the second point that, people often talk about, we often think in terms of, academic pressure being very high and so on and so forth. Now, we hardly talk about certain factors which can contribute to, apart from the academics, in a suicidal behavior or erratic behavior or oddities, idiosyncrasies, which we're getting to see in individuals like, young children and youngsters. We call them adamant, disobedient, they are impulsive, borderline personality disorder, so on and so forth. There's a huge barrage of, the technicalities which are coming in, but we are missing out on the core issue. And this is the most important, like we talk about, the suicide happens in particular phases or particular situations, like we talk about anomic suicide. It is borrowed from the word anomy, meaning a chaotic society or a state of chaos. It's very important. Anomics, I personally as a psychiatrist have been witnessing how, like the rate of suicidal intent. Let's talk about suicidal intent. Suicide happening, a completed suicide, okay, fine. A big fraction of people who, contemplate suicide, they do it. But the fact remains, like, why it is so, that is it just because of academic pressure or something else? I personally have been seeing, while, interviewing and talking to students, that many of them I find that, they are not rooted. They have smartphone addiction. It's a serious problem now. I think we need to, if I'm personally asked to talk about how, human behavior or student behavior can be correlated to, impulsivity, suicide, homicidality, and the rest. This sort of addictive behavior is basically taking away what actually the fundamental human nature is. We don't need actually gadgets, big cars, and all those things. Human nature basically wants simplicity and something which is correlable to nature, something which a nature can flourish within oneself. But we are not having that. Now we talk about something I give enormous importance to, rapid social transformation. That's a major nuisance. Now, I'm not actually there to stop this transformation. No one can. So, anomic state can actually contribute to suicide. Third point that I'm going to talk about, it's a very crucial matter. Like say, for example, these days we are having a lot of, gender issues, sexual disorientation, sexual preferences, and so forth. Fine. Previously, society was closeted, so people didn't have choice but to, hide behind the cupboards. Things have changed. People are opening up. Fine. But I'm getting to see, in my 32 years of practice as a psychiatrist, I'm seeing that there is a sea change in the pattern of way the people think, behave, and finally act. Like these days, we are getting a lot of people with a lot of sexual problems, sexual dysfunction, sexual preference, so on and so forth. Fine. It's liberated. People can come up to speak about it. But the point is that how media actually is influencing human behavior. It's a very important, in fact, I personally feel, like for example, there are a large number of studies which has clearly established that the media blitzkrieg on, say, not promoting, talking about or making films or, pictures where, you are talking about homosexuality, bisexuality, so on and so forth, bestiality and so forth. How, like, I personally have got a number of, individuals who actually are actually bisexuals. They've admitted it's good fun. Actually, I'm heterosexual. But I'm a bisexual because, being actually lesbian, in a part of my behavior or a part of my life, it gives me a lot of thrill and delight. Now, these individuals themselves say, when I ask them, where do you learn it from? From the movies, from the books, the way, the fashion magazines and various other TV channels. Now, the point is this, I'm not saying you stop this kind of media. But yes, I'm actually basically an advocate of responsible living. I'm doing a lot of work on this area. We need to be responsible. And this responsibility has to be translated, and the children must thereafter understand that there is something called responsibility. The next point, actually, the time is very short, self-identity. Like, these days I'm getting children who do not have any identity for themselves. Like, I'm almost touching 60. But at the same time, I can remember that all our, friends who are almost in the same age, we stand somewhere and we have certain convictions. We stand by our identity and we know what is good, what is bad. We learned it at a very early age. Our children these days, see, it's pointless to put the blame on parents. I personally feel, this is again a point, it might be appear a little controversial. I personally feel that adolescent youngsters do need to have their own sensibility in a sense that one should cultivate it. There is no problem in that. We have done it, why can't these people? It cannot be always the problem with the society and the parents and how the school functions. I personally feel the children has to be more sensitive. And this is a message I'm getting across to most of the youngsters, and it is working. I personally feel that yes, children can be children. We call them tender hearts, tender minds and all, but at the same time, they have to have certain degree of self-responsibility, some introspection. We talk in terms of self-examination. When I actually speak about self-examination, some of these fathers and parents say that we are talking about something very serious. If someone is asking or something very serious matter, don't talk about it. I just see self-examination or introspection might appear a very serious, but it is a very simple thing. You take out a time and just think about yourself. Where is the pros and cons? Where are the negatives? What are the areas you need to work upon? Now the resolution is this. I think media has to be responsible. How can we tackle this? We talk about a very cliched area, but I think it's very important. That the mental health awareness. Working in schools, colleges, and also the parents need to know how to handle such kind of problems, and more importantly, the children must be taught to not to be sentimental, not to be emotional, and to be resilient. See, this is not teaching something like as it happens in schools. It can happen just of interaction, and all those old things that we used to do, reading. And another thing that I've found correlable is that not having the reading habits and how it is devastating the society. I don't get to see a single letter reading of books these days. Or you go to an airport, you see a guy reading just a paper book which is something like a erotica. If this is the state of affairs, I don't expect anything better from our children. We talk about role models, parents being role models. I absolutely disagree on this point that none of the parents in the modern times are actually can be labeled as role models. Now, many of my clients, young children, when I just talk about who are their role models, all those porn stars, all those film stars. See, I'm not declining against them. But actually, what are we teaching children? What are we offering in the society? What are we creating in the society that the children can learn from something very constructive? There's nothing. Pornography is of it, everything. Nothing good is happening. There's not a single good book. So I don't expect much of a change unless, the society becomes largely responsible in a collective manner.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.